Welcome to Stoner Watch, and this is the Retro Rewatch. And today we're talking about the 1979 classic Meatballs. And if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button and click on that bell so you can be notified for future videos. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And wow, man, I recently did a rewatch of the Meatballs starring Bill Murray, and I gotta say, this movie is hilarious. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be a total gut buster. I mean, even, I don't know, I like it. This was like the first time I've actually went back and rewatched this movie in a long time. I couldn't even really tell you the last time I actually saw this movie, but I remember when I was a kid, I did like this movie, and I actually kind of liked the second one. I didn't see the third or the fourth Meatballs, to be quite honest with you, and reading the description on these movies, I don't know if I could actually watch it, but I also did learn quite a bit doing research for this video for this movie, things I didn't know before. I mean, yes, I know it's a 42-year-old movie. Why am I talking about a 42-year-old movie? I mean, most of the time you don't want to do a video that's like on a movie that's a couple of years old, let alone 42 years. But every once in a while you got to pull out an old classic and you got to talk about it so people go back and rewatch it. Now, I don't know if anybody's actually going to go back and rewatch this movie because they've watched this video, but maybe they will and maybe they won't. I don't know. Again, like I said, I thought this movie was halfway decent, kind of funny, ties into a couple other movies that came out around that same time, mainly because of the actor and the director that was involved in this one. Again, it was a halfway decent movie for what it was. And it's like, considering some of the other movies that came out about kids going to a camp, nobody died. You know what I'm saying? Actually, currently, it's sitting at a Rotten Tomato score of 72%. That's pretty damn good for a movie that's like 42 years old. Now, granted, it is based on only 36 credit reviews at this point, but the most recent one was from last March in 2020, so I guess that might mean a little bit of something. And that guy, I'm not going to call him out, but he half liked it and kind of didn't like it. I think he was like looking more into it than what it really was. I think that is part of the problem with some movie critics. They try to really analyze it like way too damn much, like they like try to pick it apart, like, this is what they mean when they were doing this. Maybe not. I mean, it might be just like a stupid fart joke. You know what I mean? I mean, it could be just that, really. Just a stupid fart joke. Now, it did have an audience score of 58%, and I think the most current audience reaction, other than mine today, was like, I believe like last year in 2020. I don't remember the exact date on it, to be quite honest with you. I didn't look that close to it. Now, this one is now in 2021, so I think the movie was okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the best movie I've ever watched, but it had some funny moments, and it was kind of weird to actually watch a bunch of kids that didn't have cell phones or video games in their hand. You know what I mean? That alone was something. You had to like base your funny on something other than something you read on the internet. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe it's just me. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Now, according to Wikipedia, the movie's budget was $1.6 million and its total box office was $70 million. Now, I don't know what the marketing budget was for this movie back in 1979. I mean, it sure wasn't like it is on how they do it nowadays. That's for damn sure. But it had to be, let's just say on the safe side, it's probably at the most, or maybe roughly around like $1 million towards its marketing that they would do, how they would do it back in 1979. That's still quite the profit margin when you really look at it. Now, according to Wikipedia, said it was the highest grossing Canadian film in the United States. So that's got to say something. Now, this movie was directed by Ivan Reitman and written by Len Blum, Dan Goldberg, Janis Allen, and the late, great Harvey Ramis was one of the writers for this movie, and it just makes this movie even more awesome as far as I'm concerned. Starring in this movie, we have Bill Murray, Harvey Atkin, Kate Lynch, Russ Banham, Kristine DeBell, Sarah Torgov, and Chris Makepeace, just to name a few. Now, Meatballs is a 1979 Canadian comedy directed by Ivan Reitman and is noted for Bill Murray's first film appearance in a starring role and for launching the directing career of Reitman, whose later comedies included Stripes in 1981, Ghostbusters in 1984, both starring Bill Murray. The film also introduced the teenage actor Chris Makepeace in the role for Rudy Gardner. The film was the highest-grossing Canadian film of all time in the United States and Canada, winning the Golden Reel Award. It was followed by several sequels, which only Meatballs 3 Summer Job in 1986 had any direct connection to the first film and the only film of the franchise to receive an R rating. Now, when I read that only the third film had any direct connection to the first film, I'm like, really? I thought they all were connected. I did some digging and come to find out that's not the case. Now, Meatballs 2 was also at a summer camp, but it wasn't the same summer camp. It wasn't the North Star camp. I can't remember what the name of the camp was offhand, but it had a totally, and then there was a military camp, which was the opposing camp in the second one, and there was also an alien, because that was like the thing back in 1984, especially after the E.T. and Star Wars. Everything was all about aliens, so they had to throw that in there. And I kind of remember that. It kind of made it cheesy at the time, and actually kind of makes it cheesy right now. But it was kind of cool, too. I mean, I kind of like the second one a little bit, even though now I know. I always thought they were connected. I guess I never really paid attention to the name of the camps back then. And then I also found out that the Meatballs 4 in 1992 that was starring Cord Feldman. Now, like, it looks like it was somewhat like the kind of camp, and then they had to throw in water skiing on top of that. I don't know. It definitely wasn't the same camp. It wasn't even like the same name. So I don't know. I'm not really sure about that one. It didn't. The poster definitely wasn't drawing me in it, and reading about the description for the movie, it's definitely like, no. Now, the plot for Meatballs is basically we follow a group of summer camp counselors at Camp North Star at a cut-rate camp located in Ontario. Director Morty Melnick, called by Mickey by everyone to play a Mortimer Mouse, falls victim to Tripper-led practical jokes, mainly being taken from his cabin in the middle of the night and waking up in unusual places. Also, it follows the story of Rudy Gardner, a lonely boy who's sent to summer camp by his workaholic father. He decides to run away from camp. Noticing Rudy is shy and having difficulty fitting in, Tripper tracks Rudy to the nearby bus station and takes him under his wing. Each morning they go on a jog and rapidly bond as friends. Also in this movie, there's a big, huge basketball game against the rival camp, because there's always two camps in these types of movies. And then after they lose that game, like really, really badly, because they just suck at basketball, which I'm not any better at it, so anyway, then they had this like Olympic style like competition with the two camps where they're keeping score, and like it's like at first they're getting their in every single division or whatever category, they're getting their butts kicked. And then there's like a big huge like motivational speech by the character that Bill Murray's playing as Tripper. Now this is like the one part of the movie that I remember the most, is like when it just doesn't matter. I can't tell you how many times a week that goes by to where someone says the words, it just doesn't matter. And I immediately think of this movie, and I immediately like just had to repeat those words just like it does in this movie. I know I'm weird. I'm weird that way, but it's like one of my favorite parts of this movie. I don't know why, but I thought it was funny. And it's just like, it's kind of like a phrase that's like stuck in my head. On a personal note, it was because of movies like this one and other ones like it that always made me want to go on like a summer like type camp like thing. Now, I never got the chance to do that when I was a kid, but I did have the opportunity finally when my nephew, when he got into 5th grade, they had some kind of school trip. We went to the YMCA Camp Kopahonik, and it was basically like the same thing. No, it wasn't like the same kind of experience that you see in this movie, but it was kind of similar to a certain degree, because like there were camp counselors that were there, and there were some parents that were there. Granted, I was the uncle, but it was still a lot of fun, and we did like a lot of arts and crafts, and there was a zip line, and there was canoeing and all that stuff. And it was always what I thought that going on like a summer type camp would be. Now, it was only like for 3 or 4 days, but it was still fun nonetheless. And I got to do the same experience with my youngest daughter when she was in 5th grade. Now, that one was still kind of fun, but it was like later in the school year, a little bit later in the school year, so it was a little bit colder here in Michigan, and it was that part didn't make it all too much fun. But other than that, it was still a good memory nonetheless. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I thought this movie was okay. I mean, it's funny. It's 42 years old, so some of the jokes work still, some of them don't. But if you just let your mind go and just watch the movie and just try to enjoy yourself, it's not that bad. So I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie Meatballs starring Bill Murray? Let me know in the comments down below. Have you ever heard of this movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you see any of the sequels, 2, 3, or 4? I myself personally have only seen Meatballs 1 and 2. I never saw 3, and I never saw 4. I might go back and watch those. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So Let me know what you think in the comments down below.